the recording.
Okay, it's 7 o'clock. This is I'm gonna open the public hearing for the use variance for 4 Church Street. In the room, we have the board, Conrad, Mike, we have Tim Nolan, the CEO, Pete Bickman, Andy Whittier is the alternate, Caitlin Gollinger, and then on Zoom, we have Brent Bartley, the applicant, and we also have Jenny Reed here, who is observing or taking notes, making sure we stay in line. So I will start the public hearing with, why don't we start with what we're gonna do is basically on the public hearing, we're gonna go through, we're gonna hear from Tim, what the application was, why it's denied, and then we can hear from Brent what you want, and then we'll open for public comment. And then we'll close the public hearing and go to the meeting where we actually talk about things. Okay? We good with that?
Sounds good.
All righty. Tim, talk to us about what the application is for.
Okay, Brent Bartley submitted an application on 12/23/23 for the following purposes: to renovate an existing structure, turning a 3-bedroom apartment into, turning a 3-bedroom apartment into a 2-bedroom apartment and a 1-bedroom apartment, in accordance with the approved granted permit number 160063, issued on 9/27/2016. I denied this permit on 1/4/24 because of nonconformance with Village Code Chapter 325 zoning law, Schedule A, permitted uses, multifamily dwellings. A multifamily dwelling is not permitted use in a single family zoning district.
Okay.
So that's the basics of the
Great.
denial.
Okay, Tim, just for clarification, this building permit was originally opened in 2016, and was it continued in 22 or 21?
No, it was expired in
2017.
No, there's another one, I don't have it with me. Oh, yes, expired January 6, 2023.
Okay, cool, great. All right. Awesome, thanks.
No problem.
So Brent,
Yes.
tell us about what projects you're trying to do here and what variance you're asking for from the board in terms of talk to us about what's going on. We have the application in front of us.
Right.
Just talk us through it, just so we have it like in the official minutes so people know what's going on.
Okay. In 2016, I went before the planning board. I'd applied for a building permit to do this, to develop this 3rd apartment in 4 Church Street. It was, as I understand, it was originally like a 5-bedroom home. We had, when I purchased it, there were 5 university students living there, which meant that there were more like 10 people living there. And the property was feeling the effects of that. And so we decided that we would break it up into apartments, an upstairs apartment and a downstairs apartment. And at that time, we made it a 2-bedroom apartment because I always feel that fewer people in an apartment makes it easier to manage and to maintain. So that bedroom had been closed off for some time when in 2016 I applied for a permit to develop the 3rd apartment, which is a small 1-bedroom apartment. We were granted that approval, obtained the building permit, and at that point in time we proceeded to build an entry, which was a staircase up to the rear of the building, installed an entry door. We did some other work as well, like some preliminary roughed in wiring and that kind of thing. And then we were kind of at a standstill because in order to install or to rough in the plumbing for that apartment, we had to rip the ceiling out of the downstairs apartment, which was occupied at the time by a lady that worked at SUNY Canton, and she entered into a one-year lease, which ended up, she extended the lease for the next 5 years. And she just moved out in July of last year, which was when we had the opportunity to continue with that renovation. And so I went to Tim in December saying this is, a continuation of the work that we were planning to do earlier. But in the meantime, he advised that the zoning had changed, and originally it was an R2 district, which allowed for multi-family dwellings. And it has been that for as long as we've owned it. There's another building in the back. I'm not sure if all of you are familiar with the property. It was owned by Dr. Smith, who was a veterinarian, and he lived in the house on the street. There was another, I guess you could call it an apartment, a handicap accessible apartment in the back for one of his relatives, elderly relatives. And then the building in the back where he had his practice was developed into 2 more apartments. So it's been a multifamily dwelling property for significant number of years. And so in any event, we discovered that this permit that I applied for to update the original would have to be denied and come before your committee to request permission to continue with the renovation that we had started.
Great, okay. Any clarifying questions, guys? Anyone know real fast? Brent, real quick question for you. Was the original permit, were you required to build that back staircase as part of the original permit? Or was that just straight the egress for the that back 1 bedroom that you're renovating?
That was constructed to be the main entrance to that apartment.
Okay. Just so in case you guys haven't seen what this is, basically this is a whole 2nd story apartment. Okay, 2nd floor. Okay. There's a 2-story staircase exterior that's covered along the side here that comes into the front living room. Okay. And then this is 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom bathroom. And this 3rd bedroom, this is the one you talked about as a 3rd bedroom. They locked off originally, right, Brent? They locked off the 3rd bedroom, yeah. Locked off just they rented the front 2. And it was the hope to, and they started the renovation to convert this guy into this as a 1 bedroom. And at the time, they built a back staircase, the 2-story pressure treated staircase exterior going into that space. And this is all under the previous building permit. Okay. All right.
And this was all approved.
This was all approved at that point. Let me go ahead and close off the public hearing. I'll get into the meeting. I'll talk about like why we're seeing this.
Okay.
Any other public questions, public comment before we go into our public meeting? Great. All right, there goes the public hearing. I received no questions from the neighbors.
Everybody else.
That's it.
Definitely.
So there was no questions from the neighbors. To be fair, my front door, I stare at this property, so familiar with where this.
And you got a letter, right?
I got a letter. And
Everybody else got a letter.
Cheryl, neighbors got letters, everyone's notified, and not a lot of response. So, great. All right, so no public comment. All right, so now let's move into the meeting part where we talk about you. Okay? All right, so here we are. Basically, what we have in front of us basically is a request for a use variance. Now, a use variance has the 4 rigorous tests that we have to match, okay? And this is the one, if it fails one, we can't pass it. All right, that's the state law. Let's talk about this property in terms of the situation we're in. Building permit was, this is my impression, correct me if I'm wrong, Tim, or Brent, correct me if like I'm misconstruing something, okay? All right, so in 2016, it was applied for the permit, right? It went before planning. I found the notes from planning. The planning notes were this long on it. It was basically approved, passed, and done in February of 2016, okay? Site plan was approved, enough parking spaces, everything according to code, okay? Work started in 16, including the rear entrance. And then, as Brent said, apparently what happened was that due to, basically continuing renter and downstairs space, in order to change the plumbing chase in terms of moving mechanicals around, they couldn't rip out the ceiling, so they delayed renovation. And now here's the sticky part. The building permit expired, okay? And once the building permit expires, it has to be reapplied and reopened. And then the code changed between those two applications, okay? So it was fine under the previous code. The permit was open, the permit expired. And then when it went to reopen, now it's of course under the new code, and the multifamily is not allowed in this district.
Yeah, it's now a single family district.
Now, a single family district, it would still be grandfathered in as a 2-apartment building, top apartment and the bottom apartment, just not a 3-apartment building with the downstairs apartment and 2 on the upstairs. So what we're looking at is basically, so it's still grandfathered as usage as a 2-family.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
It's allowed use as a 2-family now.
Right, as grandfathered to 2-family use. And so this would be a transition into a multifamily use, which would be 3 apartments. Okay, so that's the use that we're looking at.
And the law came into effect in 2021.
Yeah, 2021. So 5 years after the original building permit was issued, approximately. Okay.
Question?
Yeah.
Can you, as you look and you see your permit is about to expire, before it expires, can you lobby for an extension, or do you have to
Yes.
go through,
You can get it renewed for
Okay.
6 months.
even though,
It is under previous code, yes.
okay,
There's a stipulation in the code. You don't remember that was, Tim, off the top of your head? I forget what it was.
327, 325, 57.
So there's a stipulation for just for the situation. Building permit open under the previous code. How do you handle them?
okay,
Oh, no, that's not the code. I
No,
mentioned.
No, that's too early in that. But anyhow, we looked at that, and there is a stipulation in the code for that. Basically, it says if you open the building permit under the previous code, it's a non-conforming building permit, and so that non-conforming use continues, and you're
Okay.
fine. You're allowed to
Okay.
finish the project.
okay,
The biggest issue was that the permit wasn't.
extended.
You only get 6 months
Okay,
for a renewed permit.
okay, and then after 6 months, it's over.
Would apply again, or you gotta go all the way back?
Yeah, how long can you kick that can down the road?
12 months. You only can really do it twice,
Okay,
and it's gotta be consecutive.
okay,
You can't you can do it 6 months, and then when that expires, you can do another 6 months, but you can't. It's gotta be
okay,
consecutive.
okay.
Brent, did you reopen it at all or renew it at all after the 2016?
I did not know.
Okay, cool. All right, so that's where we are.
Mhm.
Right, and Tim, in your experience with contractors doing work, how many of them renew their permits, just kind of let it slide and keep on working under a permit that might have expired as they work on this project slowly over time? Like, is this an unusual situation, or is this like, now we kind of work with this a lot?
That's a tough question.
Okay. Fair enough, like,
It all depends on the scope of the work.
okay,
If it's, like, this is a significant job.
Yeah.
And you would really want to pay close attention to something like this and make sure your ducks are in a row.
Right.
Whereas like, if it's something less significant.
Right.
Or the scope is smaller, I'm sure there's a lot of permits out there that haven't been renewed or picked up
Okay.
but,
If I could just interject here for a minute, the reason I went to Tim just before Christmas was because I had the electrical inspector to come in and do the roughed in inspection. And he said, "You have a building permit, correct?" And I said, "Yes," but that got me thinking that it was 2000. I didn't remember exactly what year it was that I had gotten it, but that's when I said, I better go to Tim and renew this building permit. And unfortunately, I didn't do that earlier. That is on me.
Right, well, I mean, here we are too. The thing is, even if you renewed it, it would have been renewed only for a year, so you've been in 2018. And so we're in that gray area. I mean, at least you went and asked, and so now we're here, let's figure this out.
Mhm.
So,
Right, yeah.
there's a lot of things out there that I just don't see.
Oh my gosh, yeah, no, we all live in the town.
And it's like,
No, we know. We're not-
it's limitations.
One person, one job.
These are true.
Okay. Okay, so does everyone, any questions about in general, like what we're talking about in terms of what the applicant's hoping for, what the use would be, what the proposed use variance would be?
So the first floor is one apartment.
Yeah.
And then it's taking the second floor and breaking it up into
To
apartment 2 and apartment 3.
Yep.
Okay.
And what Brent said was that this stack here, there was some of the mechanicals or furnace was on the second floor in this space.
Yeah.
So I had to go downstairs, and part of that was ripping out the ceiling below and the plumbing and chases like that. So,
Mhm.
Downstairs, you know, to the cellar or to the first floor?
where'd you end up putting the furnace that you pulled out of that? Did you pull furnace out of that second floor?
Yes, and that will be, there will be a heater in there of some sort. But that furnace was removed.
Okay. So I think there's just a lot of renovation work. It's a big project.
And the space we're talking about has been empty this whole time.
This back half,
This back half has been.
yes,
Been empty for at least 5 years.
yes,
So it's just been functioning as a two
it's a
a
two-bedroom,
2-unit.
two-unit apartment.
With
So
unused space.
So apartment 2 has been vacant for,
now apartment 3.
No,
Proposed
the
three.
proposed
Oh, sorry.
3 has been unused. The question was, are we breaking apartment 2 in half? Or is this proposed space been empty for this whole time? And apartment 2 has been functioning as it will continue to be
Right.
going forward.
Brent, has that back bedroom been ever used by apartment 2? That third bedroom that was in the second floor apartment? Has that always been closed off? Okay.
It's always been closed off, yes.
So this space here has always been, so even though it says apartment 2, bedroom 3,
There's this.
that it's been locked door.
I got it.
Yeah, so that back whole half has been empty.
Yeah.
Semi.
Okay.
Constructed.
Yeah.
With a back staircase.
Got it.
Okay. Cool. All right. Questions? Any other questions? No? Well, I think that we could, why don't we start talking through our general tests and go from there. Does that work for everyone? Okay. Brent, what we have is we basically from the state declares we have to go through these 4 tests for any sort of use variance.
Right.
These 4 tests you saw in your application, you addressed them on your application, and now we talk through them and go from there. Okay. And
Sure.
we basically will address them piecemeal and just kind of ask more information as we dig into it. Okay. The question 1, the first test, all right, was the applicant cannot realize a reasonable return as shown by competent financial evidence. The lack of return must be substantial. The applicant said several thousands of dollars have been invested in the renovation based on the original granting of building permit. Brent, do you have a ballpark what several thousands of dollars looks like? Are we talking 2? Are we talking 8? Do you have a ballpark on that? I mean,
At this point, it's probably around between 8 and 10.
okay. Okay. And as a gut feel, just so we have an understanding of numbers, okay? If it's left as a 2-bedroom apartment, what is your ballpark net profit on that building in a given month? Like how many years would it take you to pay back a sunk investment, a lost investment of $8,000 to $10,000?
Probably 5 years.
Okay. Okay. And, all right. Would you say most of that work was done in 2016 or under the building permit, or it was some of that work done like basically when you're reactivating the project this last December?
Well, basically, it was whenever I could free up my crew to do the work, we had other jobs on the go and, I know initially, one of the things that we did right away was, put up the staircase, the rear staircase, installing the door. Um, and over the years, whenever we could, have some time, we did what we could on the property without or on that particular part of the property. We did everything we could without, disturbing the tenants downstairs.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
Cool. Alrighty. Questions, guys, on that one?
I got a question. The building in the back that he used to use for his office, are there still apartments in that you still have?
Yes. yes, Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the red one. Still 2 units back there, yeah. Cool. Any other questions, guys, about the reasonable return? It kind of gives us an idea, like it's a tough one, right? Because it's, and the applicant's saying we got about a 5-year payback on the sunk cost. And
And just to be clear on that, Conrad, I'm saying 5 years because, I mean, we do have the property paid off now. If I had a mortgage against it, it would be a longer
Yeah.
period of time.
which is fair. That's totally fair. Yeah. I mean, if you had any sort of liens on the property, or if you decide a mortgage to put the money back in something else, that would be costs.
Correct.
And you're in a lucky situation where it is only 5 years. I mean, so you have a greater return on profit at this stage of the game than you might have had earlier. Okay. Okay. All right. Question 2. Or do you want to stay with question 1? Okay. Question 2 is we're not gonna do a yes no's on these yet. I want to talk through these things and then figure out where we are. Okay. Question 2, the alleged hardship relating to this property is unique. Okay.
That's true.
You going unique on this one? All right. The applicant stated the property consists of 4 church, currently 2 houses, 2 2-bedroom apartments, as well as a second building consisting of 2 to 3 bedroom apartments, 2 to 3 bedroom apartments. Okay. All right, let's see here. So are we going to find other houses in the zoning district that are going to encounter the same issue? I think the issue before us is an expired building permit to convert to add an apartment to an existing multifamily house. I'm not sure we're going to encounter a lot of these. If we look at our zoning code changes, one of the things we talked about during the zoning code change was downgrading zoning, making zoning more restrictive in areas. Okay. To be honest, there's probably only 10 parcels in the village that this hit. And this is one of them.
Sort of grandfathered in, that
Right.
could be changed, yeah.
Right. So it went from a resident R2 to the R single family.
Mhm.
And this side of this was basically Church Street. It was my house. Was your house originally your original? Was 9
Yes.
Church originally? Okay, so now you're okay.
It was R2.
Now
So the
you
whole street was R2?
no,
No.
just half.
Just half.
No, actually,
just
I
half.
think right up to,
Brett, 9 was 11 was not though. I don't think.
John Halls was.
John Halls was. I think it went across the street from you, across to John, and then down to Maine. Because I don't think.
So as you got up to Judson, it
Yeah.
was, single family.
Huh,
Okay.
interesting.
Yeah, so it was a line right across the street. So it was 7 Church, 9 Church, John Halls. I don't think I think Peckham's was R1. Yeah, no, it was one,
Barb and Jack Clemens, I think they were R2.
they were R2 too, yeah. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of us, 7 houses.
Yeah.
And then I think, so this is what we deal with.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so the question is it unique? Go on.
Is that why they drew a line? Because at that end was multiple family homes. On the other end, there wasn't. Is that why?
Why did
Instead
you,
of going,
in 83?
yeah,
In 83, I'm not sure what the rationale
Yeah.
was for that line there.
Yeah.
Because in 83, well, in 83, my house, 7 Church was multifamily. Brent, when you picked up 9 Church, was that multifamily? Is that apartments?
No, it wasn't, but it had been prior to, us purchasing it.
Yeah, okay, so my guess is that whole end of the street was
Was already, yeah.
R2, or that's why
Actually, you can see it right here.
on 83, in the 83 map?
Not the 83 map.
2016.
Yeah,
Let me see.
so that's the R2, it's gonna go right across,
Yeah, right up here.
so,
It went all the way back to here, almost to my house. There is,
a couple others, yeah. So,
So the thinking, I assume at the time, was to try and push that neighborhood into more single families and away from multifamily rental units.
in 2021.
In 2021, when the code was changed.
Yeah.
There was a conversion happening already, and there was obviously
I think so, I think it was
a sense that we wanted to
to
encourage more of that.
we wanted to, every other street off of Main Street was left as R1.
Yeah, so
Um,
goes
just,
all the way to the
just Main
Canes
Street.
house.
Does it go to Canes? Oh, cool.
So Main Street was.
Main
was
Street's a downtown mixed use or something, and then the
Streets,
off that were R1s.
Yeah.
Well, starting with church.
Yeah.
And it would have been the only area of residential multifamily is not surrounded by anything else. It's surrounded by R1s and downtown mixed use. So
Yeah.
it was a pocket.
Yeah.
So. So
Oh, can you see that?
that's a 2016 one. I mean, would this hardship apply to a substantial portion of the zoning district? Okay. Any other questions on number 2? You guys see the questions I'm talking about? I have that sheet.
Yeah.
Number 3. Thanks.
Yeah.
Number 3 was, the request to use variance is granted not alter the essential character of the neighborhood. The property is, applicant states the property has existed for several decades, 2 residential apartment buildings. It is an apartment building, it will stay as an apartment building, it's the question of whether it has another apartment in the building or not. It's not gonna change the use of that parcel, it's not gonna change, well, it's going to modify the number of cars.
so there are currently 4 units
Yes,
on this property,
yes.
and how many people? Roughly, for either of you.
nobody downstairs, he said no, so.
Yeah,
How many bedrooms total, Brent, between the 2 buildings?
2, 4, 7, 10, and with this one it'd be 11.
currently
11
10,
bedrooms.
10 bedrooms.
Yep.
Right now.
And
I just didn't realize that.
Who do you generally rent to? Like, is
The-
it students, or is it professionals, or?
Yeah, the front apartment in the main house is usually professionals. The rear apartment, at least one of them is generally students. But the other apartment, it's been a mixture. Sometimes it's students, sometimes it's professional.
ample parking.
Ample parking, yes.
Yeah.
That's one of the things they looked at in 2016 was whether or not there were sufficient parking for the addition of that 1-bedroom apartment.
Yep, planning approved it in 2016 for those parking spots. They also looked at snow removal. They said there's plenty of parking spots and snow removal. I said, okay. That was the extent of their conversation about it.
I remember delivering there one time and I had to climb over a snowbank to get into one of the apartments in the bank.
No, I can imagine.
But it's a student who probably does a shovel.
Yeah, yeah.
They just keep walking over. but-
Students are like, whatever.
I have a snow blower now, Mike.
Well, I send other people to do that and I was like, I'm too old for that.
Okay, any other questions on, altering the essential character of the neighborhood? All right, the alleged hardship has been self-created. Applicants stated renovations were ongoing based on the original granting of the building permit to allow the renovation of the new building zoning code map was instituted in the midst of the renovation. Some of the questions we can ask ourselves is, what were the permitted uses at the time it was purchased? It was totally allowed at the time it was purchased. Were substantial sums spent on remodeling for a use not permitted by the zone? Nope. It was an approved usage, it was an approved permit, it just got flipped. I mean, the last question doesn't make much sense, so we'll skip that one. Was the property received through inheritance, divorce, or court order? No. That does not apply. I mean, it could be mitigated if the permit had been renewed, right? But due to the flow of the project, it didn't happen.
Well, maybe it could have been, but you could only do it for a year, so you still wouldn't have been able to. That'll be reapplied for 6 months and then the next 6 months. It still wouldn't have been in this.
Right, the issue was there was a tenant with like a, did I hear right, like a 5-year lease or something?
Yes, she entered into a 1-year lease and that she kept extending it. And that was the understanding when she moved in. She had moved from Georgia to take a position at SUNY Canton. And she said she just needed a place long enough to find a place to purchase. And that was initially going to be 6 months, and then it turned into a 5-year stay.
Yeah.
Did she retire?
She did, yes.
Okay.
It was unfortunate set of circumstances. Her husband moved up here, and shortly after he was diagnosed with cancer, and he was being treated, and he died, I think, 2 years ago. And then within like a few months of him passing, she decided to move back to Buffalo.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
I knew he passed away, I didn't know what she ended up doing.
Here.
Yeah, got about the snow belt. Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. Any questions on the hardship, guys? Let's talk through real fast to make sure. All right. We looked at the reasonable rate of return. We talked about the amount of money that the return rate that you might be looking at to recoup losses of costs put in 16 to whenever you know 16 to 23. Okay. I mean, I assume the payback would be faster on the return if you add the third apartment in, right? Okay. So, at this state, if this is turned down, we would have a structure with a extraneous second staircase to a half finished apartment upstairs. Okay. Would that impact the future sale of the property? Who knows? There's no telling. Okay. All right. All right. Is it substantial? Helpful. Okay. All righty. On the uniqueness, guys, does anyone feel like it's not unique? I'm feeling like it's pretty unique. Do you guys agree with that?
Mhm.
Okay. I think it's pretty unique. I can't think of any other ways to solve the problem. Without the use variance. It's not like I don't think it's a workaround for option C that can't think of anything. Okay. I'm gonna come back to altering the essential character of the neighborhood. That's number 3. One of the questions they asked about is there an impact on parking patterns, noise, traffic, and that sort of thing?
Kind of that, I wasn't there, but when they approved by the planning board, probably that was all looked at that time. That hasn't changed, you know, other than the zoning has changed, but as far as if there was sufficient parking and sufficient for everything then,
Right.
that hasn't changed any, that's the same, I would say.
Right. The only point I would bring up on counter to that is a question about to Tim. Do you happen to know if parking spot allocations per parking in multifamily houses changed between the previous code and this code?
I think they might have.
Okay.
You can look it up, but I think it's like 1.5.
I think it's 1.5 per bedroom too.
I
Yeah,
think
Yeah,
it's
that's right,
per,
'cause we talked about it when we had.
I think it's per-
Issue with the hotel.
Yes,
it might be
yes.
per dwelling unit, not per bedroom. Double check that.
Do you remember the number?
So we talked about it when we did the Fairfield.
I think
Yeah.
it's 325.55. It's kind of,
I'll try that.
Picture.
Minimum parking spaces.
And not on, up on the code the way you are, but we have had this conversation.
We have definitely had this conversation before. 2-family and multifamily dwellings, 1.5 per dwelling unit. So that's 1.5 per apartment?
correct.
Okay. So 1.5 per apartment, and we're looking at to change from 4 apartments to 5 apartments.
Yeah.
So we're looking at 7.5, we go from 5, which is gonna go from 6 to 7.5.
Yeah,
And a half of, with a half a space, it's counted as a whole.
round up.
So it's not motorcycles.
No,
And the original plan had 11 spaces on it. Okay, so the original proposed plan, which I don't know if I have a copy of right here, but I think I've seen it, had 11 spaces. Which would satisfy that requirement for parking. And the change, I guess the change is only really adding 1.5 parking spots, right? It's only 1 bedroom.
One bedroom. So one dwelling,
one dwelling unit.
so it's 1.5 spots.
Right.
Or 2 based on.
Or 2 based on the math, right? What about, now, if it's denied, right? The applicant could take that 3rd bedroom and reattach it to the front, right? Making a 3-bedroom over the 2-bedroom, and basically you still have the same number of bedrooms in the structures. Okay,
And we would not have to approve that.
I think it's a 3rd bedroom attached to an existing
So
thing,
it
right?
wouldn't come to us.
Wouldn't come to us.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. It's just a sunk cost of the existing, right, but, you know, just thinking through things here.
It would be a 3-bedroom with a fire escape.
Yes, it'd be,
Expensive fire escape.
yes, it'd be a 3-bedroom with expensive fire escape through a very nice attic,
Or their own private entrance.
or their own private entrance, right?
There already is an existing egress on the side. That,
Over here.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it a second? staircase?
There's 2 staircases to the 2nd floor right now.
Extra.
2 external staircases, and there's still, Brent, do you still have the internal stair?
I'm
in that
sorry?
building? Do you still have the internal staircase in that building?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, okay.
is that functional? I mean,
Uh, The door at the top is blocked.
okay.
Yeah.
But the staircase exists.
Yes.
Got it.
Cool. Okay. All right, so that puts us on, that comes back to the parking ideas in terms of what are the big impacts? And like, I don't think that we're altering the essential character. We're adding a 1.5, needing 1.5 parking spots, which was previously talked about in planning. And it's covered by the site plan that they did at that point, or the discussion they did at that point. I think that's my recollection of what I saw, what I read. Okay.
My only question with the neighborhood, Conrad, is really the amount of traffic sort of coming and going. Right, parking, I think we've already talked about, but are we changing the nature of the neighborhood by adding more cars coming and going in some way?
From a neighbor's perspective.
From your
no.
neighbors, does it change the neighborhood? Like, does it impact the neighbors by virtue of 2 more cars?
Right.
Theoretically,
I would say,
coming and going.
yeah. Let me talk as a neighbor to that one. And Brent, feel free to chime in as a neighbor as well. But like, I feel like there's some years it's busy.
Yeah.
And some years it's light.
Yeah.
So we've been across it for 15 years.
And
And there's some years that the renters each seem to have 9 cars.
yeah, come and go at odd hours.
And then they park outside my windows.
Yeah.
And then there's other years that you don't hear a peep.
I have no idea.
You have no idea. The issue that we've had in the neighborhood from this unit is
Yeah.
not due to the renters per se.
Mhm.
It's due to, it's more a social scene of who pulls people in and has a party.
Yeah.
But parties happen. Like,
Yeah.
That's not a
Guests of tenants.
guests of tenants.
Mhm.
So we're adding one more dwelling unit. So do you end up with more guests of tenants?
Yeah.
It's a pretty teeny apartment to have a lot of guests in.
Yeah.
So I suspect. Now, I don't, from a neighbor's perspective, I would not,
Okay.
I don't have,
Okay.
a feel on that one that's negative at all.
Yeah, okay.
And Cheryl didn't feel like she needed to write in.
Right, yeah.
So, like, she didn't feel like she needed to express an opinion. So. Would you say it's a fair characterization, Brent, in terms of some years are busy, some years are not?
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
So. I think it's only been 1 year that was, you guys were up sometimes in the middle of the night dealing with them.
Yeah, and we've tightened our screening considerably
Yeah.
since those days.
Yeah, that was quite a year, I think.
Yeah,
So when I made the hockey players move from on the street,
It might have been.
did they move over there?
They might try to.
Because now they live right behind me again.
Oh, do they?
They
I
just
back
follow
in.
me around
That's
town.
great. Yay. Well, they're on that dead end road, like around that one, along the railroad, aren't they?
Yeah, that's where I pushed them to,
Yeah.
and it's in my backyard,
Yeah.
at the house that I bought.
Oh, awesome.
As someone who lives on L Street.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking one for the team.
It was rough.
It was.
I have their cell phone numbers now, and we have a good
That helps.
relationship.
Okay. So, 4 questions. Do you guys feel like you're comfortable enough to vote on this? Do you want to get more information? Okay, I'm gonna talk through each point, okay, because that's what we do with this one. This one is, it's like, we're gonna go through, because we have to pass each point. And basically, if we don't feel like the point passes, then we. I'm gonna go with the easy one, number 2. We said yes, that's the property's unique. Okay. I'm gonna go number 3 next for fun. The requested use variance, if granted, will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood. So yes would be it's not altering the essential character of the neighborhood, but yeah, no. Any gut feels on that?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not.
You're
Happy to vote. The 2 of you just talked about the character of the neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's already a rental. unit,
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah,
fine with that.
and
one.
again,
Yeah.
it's depends on, could have somebody in that apartment.
Right.
It's
Social or not?
quite, yeah, and somebody that's gonna have 3 friends there every night, you don't know
And
that.
9 cars.
Yeah. Friends with money then, if they got 9 cars. Just to register 9 cars in New York State.
Yeah, that's good.
I got 7 of them, I know it costs.
That adds up fast. All right, number 4, the alleged hardship has been self-created. For me, this comes down to continuing the permit and finishing the project versus the zoning laws change.
Yeah, I think that's a tough one.
gonna hold on that one. We're gonna go back to number one. Think about that for a second, okay? The applicant cannot realize a reasonable return as shown by competent financial evidence, okay? You know, ability to sell, leases, rentals, all the things, the existing money into it. Anyone have a gut feel on that one? Yeah.
The, before, when it's, a 2-unit, what's the rental income per month?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
For the 2 units, what's the rental income per month? And I'm assuming by adding a 3rd unit, it's gonna go up. But would that lower the rent for the current 2 units because they're getting smaller, or at least one of them's getting smaller?
Oh, it's
already
small.
It's empty space.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
But I'm just trying to get a comparison.
Yeah, the, the, upstairs apartment has always been a 2-bedroom apartment. It won't get smaller. That
Mhm.
3rd bedroom was always blocked off in anticipation of developing that 3rd apartment.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that space wasn't generating any income, period.
Right,
Okay.
that's correct.
Okay.
And I just felt that by limiting the upstairs apartment to 2 bedrooms, as I said before, I find that that is easier to maintain. I mean, if I do rent to students, 2 students in an apartment is better than 3 because of their significant others. You end up with possibly 4 people, or if you have a 3-bedroom, 6 people, you know, residing there, not officially, but you know, people staying over. And so I've just found in my experience that keeping the apartments to 2-bedroom where possible, it creates less of a
Mhm.
headache for me.
So Brent, you can see that what we're wrestling with are the 2 questions about the hardship created and the financial return. Those are the 2 that we're clearly
Right.
trying to.
And I mean, I've estimated just off the top of my head what I've invested so far in it. But I mean, if I need to go back through my records and look at the receipts I have, I can add those up and you know, provide those to you. In addition to the labor costs that I've incurred, it probably does amount to more than 10,000 at this point, you know.
Right. Okay, well, it's good to know in terms of if we decide we have to pursue that, we can take that as an option.
Mhm.
So. Okay, cool, awesome. This is why I get paid the big bucks for this committee, because we have easy decisions that come before us And, you know, this is the fun part, right? Okay. All right, we have two choices, guys. We could ask for more information on the financial side. We can go with back to the napkin math we've done and make a decision. I don't think that the alleged hardship is going to become any easier with time for us to decide on. I don't think we're getting any more information on that question. We could ask for more information on one, or we could go with the assumption that basically the 8 to 10 is a lighter figure on the lighter side, which would be my gut feel looking at a 2-story pressure treated back staircase. Based on material cost alone, if we don't add labor, I'd say we're bordering material at this stage. And I would argue, from my perspective, 2023 dollar values on lumber cost is a little different than 2016 lumber cost. And so I think that's a back of the mental model calculation.
Yeah, I'm with you on the figures, and I don't think we're gonna get any better information there. It's a fair enough estimate.
Right. Okay.
Based on what we have in terms of the
Right.
tenants, the owner's investment in the in the project.
Okay. I think the thing is that the discussion of what a reasonable return is. I think a return can be earned from this property as is.
Yeah, there are 4 rental units on the property now, and so there can be a reasonable return.
Right.
As you point out, you could make some changes to that second floor.
Right, which is opposed to.
Apartment. And add another bedroom.
Right.
Understanding the challenges that might cause
To the owner.
to the owner
Right.
there.
Which that would cost more money.
Right, which would then cost more money too.
Yeah.
A reasonable return is possible. I think the situation we're in where we've sunk cost is highly unusual.
Yeah.
And I think that's the root of what we're dealing with here. I don't think that we would ever see this sort of situation.
Where it's approved and
Started.
started and then delayed for probably all the right reasons. Didn't want to disrupt
The tenant.
a good tenant.
So,
And not really being able to foresee that the zoning laws would change.
right, you don't, in 2016, predicting that you'll be zoned out of.
Right around the forefront of it.
No. Okay. What's your feel on this? Lack of return must be substantial. You guys want to each vote on it, and then we can have 5 votes, and we can decide that way?
We're just trying to do the math, right? So.
Yeah.
If you rent that apartment, it's
Yeah.
$500 a month, $6,000 a year. You can return that in
And you figure, go ahead.
2 years.
Yeah.
Versus 6 or something.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know exactly what it means for, but.
Yeah, but I imagine it does pay off pretty fast. I mean, if you figure, I don't know what you have to figure overhead costs on rentals, right?
Right.
So you call it 50%. I'm not sure the numbers.
Yeah.
But around 50%.
We pay the utilities in those in that building as well, so comes off the top of each rent.
Yeah. And the utilities go up a little bit because you've got more water usage, more heat, whatever, but.
Right.
The return rate changes dramatically from 2 years to 6 years or something.
Right. You reduce it by quite a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, the return on investment is a bit, all of a sudden you're looking at, and the thing is, I guess, if you get into a renovation project, if you're looking at a business proposition, right? You've done rental stuff, like how long do you want to return? Like, do you take on a project that's gonna return you in 10 years, or do you take on a project that's gonna return you in 2 years?
Yeah.
I mean, I'd say my gut feel would be a 2-year return, because you don't wanna be out for 10. That,
Well, he has, say to 10, what you figure he'd give us, but he still has to put probably another, I don't know, 5, 6, 7,000 into just the plumbing and that other.
Yeah.
To get it,
Right.
livable.
Yeah.
Just put a heater unit in, they're not cheap.
Nope.
No, and so. It's, you know, it's, I don't know, does that figure in what, or we're not figuring that in and that?
We can put everything in and take everything out. We're really good at this game. I think I think the thing is, Mike, we're just trying to figure out basically, what do we feel like, is a lack of return? Is it substantial, basically? Has enough money been put into this project under an existing building code to the point where we feel that at this point, this is just a punitive measure to this applicant?
Yeah.
Basically, if we deny this, are we just creating a hardship for someone that basically was of no fault of their own? That's the question, really, when it comes down to it. The corollary question on use variance is like, basically, is this a hardship that like they had nothing to do with, right? It's a zoning law creating a hardship. And then on the corollary question of that is, basically, does this zoning change like impact the neighborhood? Is it unique? Does it propagate through the zone?
Yeah.
And then we addressed that one, questions 2 and 3.
Yeah.
All right, and that's like, okay, that one we took care of. It's like, is this a hardship?
Yeah.
Like, and my gut feel, like, I think that a reasonable return could be found, but I think that the lack of return is substantial. I think that it could happen reasonably, but not under the previous existing, not when the project was started. I think it's not, like, you don't go into this project, like, if you went into the project knowing it's gonna be this sort of process, like, my gut feel on this one would be, it's a substantial, so I'd say yes on this one.
And I think too, even if he did want to sell it, like right now, it's like, I think that would decrease the value of it a little bit, because who's gonna wanna buy this with this? Yeah, cause if we didn't grant his, then they're not gonna,
They don't get the use.
so they know they're gonna have to go into this trying to fix something and trying to put more money in, so. Yeah, I think it's substantial.
Okay with yes?
What's that?
You okay with a yes, it's substantial? On one?
So yes means
Yes means we would pass it.
yes.
Okay. All right, down to the last question, because this is use variance. We get to talk about every question. Use variances are awesome. All right, the alleged hardship has been self-created. This is back to the permit versus the zoning change. I think that, to be fair, I think that if the zoning law hadn't changed, we would not be talking about this. I think that this property is unique in terms of one of the few downgraded properties in the village. During the conversations around downgrading properties, the consultant said, those are the ones you should watch out for. Because they're bought under a previous usage. And so you not have to watch out for them, but these are the ones that are gonna cause questions. Okay, and those are normally the homeowners that ask during the adoption process. It's true. Okay, so I would say,
And were those homeowners notified at the time in some way?
same as everyone else.
Yeah, but not
I
in a
don't
way
thi- I
that
don't think it was-
necessarily people.
I don't think. No one knocked on your door, did they, saying that you're changing the zoning and all this stuff?
FYI, you'll never
No.
be able to do this.
No. Yeah.
It's in the public newspaper or
Right.
something.
You have to read between the lines.
And I'm thinking about it now.
Public notices.
Yeah,
in the
public
newspaper.
notices, right. To be thinking about it now, it wasn't like I was trying to hide something. Like, I'm remembering this conversation now, not like.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like,
And it's posted on the website.
Yeah.
And it's posted in the vestibule in the building. but
Yeah.
How many property owners are?
Reading that regularly, and that's really the question, right?
Right.
This is say, FYI, this is gonna change and you won't be able to, if you don't finish your project.
right. So. Self-created? Yes, it's self-created. Nope. I think it was pretty much, it kind of happened to him.
I said no.
Yeah, a victim of circumstances.
I think so. That's like, all right. So reviewing these 4 tests, basically, we're thinking that basically the lack of return is substantial. Okay. We think there might be a possibility of a reasonable return, but not in this situation. This situation is just a mess, right? It's unique to this property. I don't think we're going to encounter a building permit that was opened, project started under previous zoning laws, and then it's gone forward, so I don't think it's gonna change anything in the zoning area. Unless you've encountered 3 more of these two.
Not, I think, where it changed.
Right.
I mean, I know we had a few years ago on
Yeah.
Elm Street. But that had been grandfathered years and years and years ago.
Yeah, we had that conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
They wanted to take it 2 and turn it into 4, and
You're talking about the property on the corner.
not the one out from the corner. Would be.
Oh, right,
Five Elm Street.
across the street from you.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
diagonal.
Yes.
Big square, flat roof building, it has 2 units and.
I think we had that conversation. I was part of that conversation. I think we
Yeah.
saw
I
that.
think that's all multifamily though. but-
Now-
Just,
It was on the line.
it's, yeah, it's that,
First one.
the
Yeah.
first one,
Yeah.
the second one,
Yeah, that
and then
conversation.
the one next to me, Pitkins' old place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That,
It's
anything,
multifamily.
yeah,
Yep. We
and
had that.
those are the only 3,
Yep. Okay.
but it's a different,
Yeah.
this is a different thing.
I think it's a different thing. I think, to be honest with you, I think it's like, because it's single family and because it's in situation. So,
I'm gonna have to deal with our double.
yeah.
Yeah. It's- Eddie, postage stamp size, you think we can get, I remember you had this little shed, you used to go, you think I can get a unit in there? It's Jesus, Howard, no.
Alright, I don't think it's gonna, we said it's not gonna alter the essential character of the neighborhood. Okay,
Yeah.
and self-created, we said no, because basically the zoning laws changed on them, okay? Are there any, the only thing we're talking about is conditions that we could put on the granting this use variance? Maybe finish the project in the first, when the first permit's pulled.
Yeah.
Okay, so finish the project before the next zoning laws.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fine. Yeah, no kidding. 83 was the last round, so he's got a little while.
Until 23, so 20, yeah,
It was 83, wasn't it?
4 years.
It was a while.
21.
The last zoning laws, were those 16?
Yeah, I think 2007, look at the,
2007? Okay,
you know,
Oh,
okay, so only 15 years.
that map is 2007.
Okay,
And if you look in the code, a lot of,
7?
it'll say local law changed 2007.
Oh, okay,
I mean, I don't know if the whole code was revised then, but maybe
Yeah.
it was.
okay. Any conditions, guys? Okay, cool. Record of vote. We are gonna vote to allow the use variance after I write it all up. Okay. I says you agree with allowing the use variance. They've showed hardship. Nae says, no, you do not agree with this. You're voting against it.
Aye.
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 Good. Aye. You don't need. to
I will
break-
vote if I have to.
You don't need to break the tie.
Okay.
All right.
I'll break it if it has to.
So closes our public, actually, 1 second, before we go. Brent, any questions for us?
Nope, thank you for your time.
Yep, so basically I have 62 days to write this all up as an official decision. Once I have an official decision, which does not only take me 62 days, it goes off to Tim and I'll send you a copy as well. Once Tim has the official decision, then you guys can work out what the next stages are for opening a building permit and working through whatever code things that he wants done.
Mhm, okay, sounds
Fair
good,
enough.
thank you. Thank you,
Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Brent. Talk to you later. So.
thank you, everyone. Bye.
For use variance on 4 Church Street. Awesome, cool. Great, we good? Thank you so
So
much.
meeting adjourned 8:04.
We're back at it on the 28th. Okay. Area variance. I do want to talk about the idea, guys, of creating a set time block every month. So instead of me emailing and trying to get things together, I'm seeing more and more variances come in.
Like every
I would say
last Wednesday of the month. or
something like
whatever it
that,
is, yeah.
first Wednesday, like I'd look at the calendar for what's scheduled and then basically pick a Wednesday from there. And then,
Wednesday seems to work for.
what do you guys, like, I can throw out a couple like first Wednesday, second Wednesday, third.
Say we-
So what I would say is I'd say like basically we plan on a meeting on that first Wednesday or the second Wednesday of every month, right?
If we don't have anything, we
And
don't
by
have
the,
a meeting.
by the 15th of the month before, I call it on or off. So we know 2 weeks out.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because basically it takes 2 weeks for that application to be published. So it's at least 2 weeks out. So, but basically that way I know when an application comes in, Tim's like, well, geez, you know, you missed for this month, but maybe for next month. So like the communication becomes a little easier for some people.
So what if, okay, we get in a situation like we now, we have two. And we found that it really is tough to do two in an idea.
So I wouldn't do two. I basically, I would say,
We
I would kick it back.
Set another date.
Well,
No,
or
it'd be the next month.
next month.
So we'll go next month.
Standing meeting, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And if we start running out of space, if we start seeing more than 12 a year, then we'd talk.
Mhm.
Okay.
Then we get.
Negotiate more
wages.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Gonna negotiate.
Negotiate my pay raise.
Yeah, exactly. So
We got a second.
Actually,
committee.
it sounds like he's still talking, only one who talks about getting paid here.
Oh, did I say that?
You're worth every penny you get.
Yeah. It's a rotating chair. You know that?
No, it's- Yeah, because used to sit in that chair and I'm good.
Yeah, that way
It shows that way.
Okay. So next week I'm gonna sit there so you can sit back here. and run it.
So based on Wednesdays, just as a,
Huh?
to let you guys know, village board meets, third Wednesday of the month, third Wednesday of the month.
Uh-huh.
Town board meets second Wednesday of the month.
Okay.
Joint meetings are usually first Wednesday of the month, but that only happens once a quarter.
So we can overlap that.
Fourth Wednesday, and yeah, and these meetings are usually at 6, but they tend to run long.
Yeah, okay.
They will usually use this room except for joint meetings or larger public hearings, which usually get more public than we do.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind when planning. The fourth Wednesday is probably the least utilized, although occasionally if the village has to move theirs, they'll bump it a week out.
Okay.
So that would be the only, but that doesn't happen very often. I would say maybe twice a year.
Maybe Tuesday might be a better day.
Tuesday, I had a bunch of constraints, other people missing Tuesday.
Tuesday is
Tuesday's Jenny's
bad
night.
for me.
Jenny's night.
Oh,
That was.
I have a standing commitment
Yeah.
every Tuesday night.
What if, I want to talk to Mike about this too. Basically, what does it take, Mike or Sally, what does it take to put a standing meeting now? Because I don't want to like dictate something from the board, because we're looking at volunteers, we're looking at like,
Mhm.
we want to bring other
Yeah.
members in, like. And my gut feel would be, I set up 10 meetings a year, is my gut feel, and we're talking about, it'd be no January, no August. Okay, I don't care who applies in August, they can wait till September, okay? All right, well, let's be real, we're volunteers,
Sure.
like, come on.
Mhm.
And I would arc towards the first, or the fourth, and I'd just basically say, Mike and Sally, what do I need to do to make this so?
Mhm.
If that works for you guys, and then basically by the 15th of every month, or 2 weeks before, I'd pick a date. It's either the 1st or the 15th, then we know if there's a meeting happening.
Mhm.
And I
Right.
wouldn't be trading emails with you guys trying to be like, hey, can we do this, can we not?
Yeah.
Does that work for you guys? Does that make life
Yeah.
easier or harder for you guys? Like, I don't, like, what's your gut feel on this one? Like, what do you guys think?
I think it works better for me.
I think it'd be easier.
Yeah.
You can just plan for it.
Cause then you have it in your calendar,
And
and
you
your
know.
standing meeting.
And then you can
And
text me and be like, Conrad,
And I
I
only
don't have.
gotta check my emails once a month that way, so.
Yes,
It would also go out on the website
right.
calendar, so it would be set as a standing meeting that I can just change to canceled for this month
Mhm.
as needed. It would be on there ad infinitum or whatever.
would you guys meet? Like if there was nothing on
Yeah,
the table?
no.
No, that would
Oh,
cancel.
you still. you would-
Yeah, why would, we
Yeah.
could bring snacks and like. chat.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I
I
don't.
might,
like-
I'm gonna
Like,
be
schedule, we're out.
Go out for a few beers.
Right.
My wife had me-
We'll meet at the Best
meet across
Western
the
bar.
street over the
Yeah,
street.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
For Tim, though, I mean,
is that,
when we were discussing meetings gonna come in, about whatever, is that okay? You must go to a lot of meetings, I mean.
Now that, well, the new zoning law has
Okay.
triggered a lot of this.
Yeah,
Well, I have my village board meeting once a month.
yeah.
And then it seems like, there seems to be a lot of, there's planning board meetings and
Yeah.
zoning
Zoning
board.
board.
meetings. So I'd say in a month, I might have 2 or 3 meetings,
Oh,
oh, that's not-
which is not bad.
does the planning board have a regular time, or they just,
They do not currently.
oh, they don't,
They
really?
used to.
Yeah,
We did not have enough meetings to keep it regular for a long time.
Okay.
And I don't know if Barry's thinking about going back to a regular standing meeting or not. It wouldn't be a bad idea, but
And
they
that'd be good.
currently don't have.
Cause they're gonna be some more activity coming up.
Yeah,
So let's get our meeting scheduled first so we can pick the date.
that's not a bad idea.
And then this new grant is gonna trigger a lot of activity in places that.
The planning, right? Not the ZBA.
Unless it depends on
It-
who's
it probably-
asking.
It could start with.
Sure. And that's, so yeah, and now we're getting starting to see those. We're basically with the new zoning guys, we're seeing more. With
Yeah.
the signs, we're seeing more.
Yeah.
Those are the two impacts. And then we're also learning, like with the zoning, with planning, we're learning more about that process for planning to ZBA to back to planning.
Right.
And we're getting better at that process. So we're becoming a little more active. I mean, I've been on this board now for a long time. And there was years I'd never had a single meeting. Like nothing, it was dead silent.
I mean, I started with
You
the
started with the church.
CFC,
So did I, on
and
chair.
I had high hopes.
You
for
did have, yeah, but for really
the
exciting.
excitement.
That was exciting, wasn't that? Another packed room.
Jamie Sinclair's like going to law school now.
Is he not?
Yeah.
Cool, maybe he'll
What's that?
Come back.
What did you say?
The CFC, people, Sinclair is going to law school now, I heard.
Oh, that's not good.
Okay, we're turning off the recording.
So,
I did that when I was on the
Yeah.
planning board, or on the
Yeah.
planning
Come
board.
before us.
Yeah, that's.
Joe Santowski says, oh, we only meet 2 or 3 times a year and everything. We get on that about first month, that's when Walmart was trying to go somewhere. And
Oh.
Walmart, Canton.
Yeah.
And we packed, downstairs and
Yeah.
everything else. And it was crazy.
yeah,
That happened to me. I started 4 years ago. So I started the month before COVID hit. And so February of 2020. And I was told these boards don't meet that often. You'll never, and I was assigned to town and village planning and ZBA. So four
Yeah.
boards. By the time I was at the end of 2021 or 22, the town planning board with solar, we had hit up to 8 meetings in 1 month,
oh my gosh.
3 in 1 week.
Oh my
It
goodness.
was insane.
That's a drain on.
You're getting plenty of
So.
comp time for this, right?
Yeah.
There's no such thing as comp
Yeah.
time in my world. No,
You get way,
but I get hourly because I have to be here.
right. Gotcha. Yeah, I understand why you don't get comp.
Yeah, I'm only part.
Look, mine.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
although my part-time
Yeah.
goes a little above occasionally. All right, so I finished at 8:13.
Yep, we should be good.
I
Everyone.
think I'm leaving the next morning, but I might leave that